We're going to take a look at how you would void a payment that you've posted in Accounts Payable, whether it's a check, an EFT payment, or credit card payment. There's a couple different ways it can be done, so we'll take a look at all of them. We'll first take a look at the AP, checks, payments, and then either void a check or void an EFT credit card payment. So in order to do either one of these, you're going to first need to know either if it's a check, the check number, or if it's an EFT or credit card payment, the transaction number. So before we go into this area, we want to look that up. So in the instance of a check, you'd probably already have the check number, but an EFT or a credit card payment, you might not know the transaction number. So let's first look at an EFT payment. So the easiest way I think to look up an EFT payment is just to go into the Reports AP check register and then pick whichever account the EFT came out of and get the date range that the EFT would have been done. And then here in the list, just want to uncheck everything here other than the EFT payments. And then in the Report To tab, just make sure it's set to Screen and then choose OK. And here we have a EFT that we did, and we'll want to look in that TRAN number column about in the middle of the page there, and that's transaction number 50 for this particular EFT. Now because it's credit card payments don't come out of the bank account, we'd have to look in a different place in order to look at a credit card payment. One way we could do a credit card payment is under AP we have our reconcile credit card statement. So if we were to just look there, it's going to show us all of the transactions for credit cards that we've done so far that haven't been cleared yet. So we could look in that list there, find the proper payment transaction, and then again in that TRAN number column, look for the transaction number that we want to void. Another way that we could find a payment transaction would be under Reports, AP, and there's the payments report, and we could run this. Again, we'd want to run it to the screen, and you can see some different transactions there. And again, the 2 with the M here, those are EFT transactions that we did. And then the credit card one, you can see we have it listed there as a credit card. And once again, in the transaction number column, you're going to want to get that transaction number. All right. Once we have the information that we need to look up the particular payment, now we can go in and void it. So to void a check, we're just simply going to go into the AP checks and payments and then click on void a check. So all we need to do is type in the check number that we want to void. So we'll just type in a check number and then hit enter on the keyboard. And now it shows the rest of the information, the account that the check was written on, who the payee was, the date, and the amount. So we can verify that is the correct check that we'd like to void. As long as that is the correct check, we'll simply choose OK. We'll be asked to confirm that, hit yes, and now the check is void. It's very similar for an EFT or credit card transaction. We're going to go under the AP, checks and payments, and then go to the void an EFT credit card payment section. This time though, instead of the check number, we'll just need that transaction number. So if we were to type in the transaction number, hit enter, it's going to show us which account that was written on, who the payee was, the date, and the amount. And again, we would just choose OK, confirm that we want to void that transaction. Another way that the checks, credit card, and EFT payments can be voided is if they were done in the miscellaneous check section, then they can be voided in the miscellaneous check section. So if we originally went to checks, payments, and then to miscellaneous checks, EFT, credit card receipts, then we could void it there. So if it was an invoice that was put in the vendor invoice section and then paid as a vendor invoice, we wouldn't be able to use this method. But if we just did a miscellaneous check, then we can do it. Very similar here, we'll need to search for either the check or the transaction number. So in this case though, we need to go up to the top here and click once on our search icon, and then we can type in either the check number So let's take a look at that. And then after I typed in the check number, I could just hit search again and it would recall that check. Or if it's an EFT or credit card, I would click on search once, and then in the transaction number field, I would type in that transaction number and hit search again, and it would bring it up. Then after I've got the transaction on the screen there, I would simply go up to the top, choose delete, confirm that I want to void the transaction, and now it's void. All right, we'll take a look at one more void option, and that's if you have a check that never got used and you wanted to void that out of the system so that check number never did get used. You'd want to go to void an unused check, type in the check number, and then pick the account that the check would have been written on, and then choose OK, and then it'll void that check number out of the system.